Hello, everybody. Terry Heaton here, and I've got a treat for you today. I want to talk to you about my favorite author. And that is Richard Adams. I first read Richard long ago, and he was a prolific English writer. Um, his claim to fame is the book Watership Down, which is the story of the rabbits dealing with the intrusion of man. Uh, I got to know Richard a little bit while he was still alive and spoke with him about Watership Down. And he told me that it took him 25 attempts before he could find a publisher because the book was so weird. Uh, you know, Whoever thought about anthropomorphized rabbits and what they go through as man encroaches on their territory. It's a fabulous book, and it was a really big bestseller many years ago when he wrote it. But Richard Adams is so intriguing to me because of the other work that he has done. I read Maya and Shardik, two of his legendary books, and I don't know why, with all of the fantasy movement that we have in Hollywood today, that nobody's picked up on those two stories because they are back-to-back stories. Shardik, the story of an enormous bear, actually is the only time I've ever openly wept while reading a book. It's that good, at least I think. He could really draw me into a story, and so, his prose, especially descriptive prose, was amazing. But the greatest influence that he had on my life, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, is a little obscure book called The Unbroken Web. This book is fascinating because it's Richard's interpretation of ancient stories. And in the foreword to the book, he talks about these ancient stories and how they all appeared on planet Earth long ago on different continents, the same story, different continents, before intercontinental travel. So he had a thinking session with himself about how this was possible, and that's why he came up with the name The Unbroken Web. Only the foreword in the book has anything to do with the unbroken web, but it's so important that I wanted to talk to you about it today. So here's what Richard Adams envisioned. He had he said that the Earth was like a ball within a ball, like a gossamer. The outer one being like a gossamer rotating web that encased the whole planet. And in this unbroken web is the source of creativity. And he reasoned that sensitive people could reach up and touch the unbroken web. And this is why I have such strong feelings about art and artists and the idea that the prophets of the world today all can be found not in politics, but in art. And that paying attention to these kinds of people is super important. It is to me, and I hope it would be for you too. So, the story of the unbroken web, this rotating ball above the earth, where sensitive people reach up and touch it and draw from it and bring back to us that which they find, is to me a perfect illustration of how creativity works. how sensitive people are so important to our culture. You know, we've gone way off the beaten path of art in the name of our management culture. I talked to you about that in another episode. So that epiphany that I had while reading that forward prompted me to write the parable of the garden hose. And that's what I want to share most with you today. The parable of the garden hose is the story of us as human beings. We are like unto a garden hose that is curled up outside in the heat of summer. One end of our garden hose is attached to the spigot. The other end is attached to a nozzle that is closed. So the water inside the garden hose gets very, very stale. And the garden hose begs the spigot for a fresh blast of cold water. But the garden hose can't access the spigot unless it opens the nozzle and gives away what we already have. And that's the secret. That's a big secret to life, is that we sit around in our misery and we beg God or whomever for assistance. Poor me, poor me, poor me. But life, it doesn't work that way. So life says, in order for the open spigot to do you any good, you must open the nozzle and release that which you already have. So, you know, the long and short of it is, if you give away what you've got, life is duty bound to give you a jolt of refreshment. And I really wish you would try it today, because it's so important. Thanks for listening. My phone's ringing. I'll talk to you later.